Bauhaus. Bauhaus. Today, we're going to be talking about design, specifically about Bauhaus and a famous photographer, one of the few who actually captured images of the original Bauhaus institution in Germany, Lucia Moholy, wife of artist Laszlo Moholy-Nagy. I'm going to be using an article from 99% Invisible. After this video, try reading some more of the article, and on that same page, try listening to the podcast.
And what am I going to say?
And shortly after, there will be a review video on Patreon. So get on Patreon to get that video. But now it's Bauhaus time, so let's take a look. Let's get started. Founded by architect Walter Gropius in 1919, the Bauhaus School in Germany would go on to shape modern architecture, art, and design for decades to come. The school sought to combine design and industrialization, creating functional things that could be mass-produced for the betterment of society. It was a nexus of creativity in the early 20th century. Most now famous designers and artists who were in Europe during the 1920s and 30s spent time at the Bauhaus. The popularity and influence of the Bauhaus beyond Germany, however, owes a great deal to a lesser-known photographer, Lucia Moholy. Her photographs are some of the finest documents of the Bauhaus's architecture and its products. Moreover, the composition of Moholy's photos, full of striking asymmetry and stark contrast and seriality, draw on the very ideas that the Bauhaus espoused. Moholy's photographs of the Bauhaus are both representations of the school and works of art in their own right. Okay, so let's take a look at some of this stuff here. Industrialization talks about the development or the process of making things on a large scale, making a lot of them, like they say, creating mass quantities of these functional and useful things. That's what the Bauhaus was interested in doing. Things for the betterment of society. Betterment is the process of improving or developing. We can also think of it as advancement. So they did it for the betterment of society. They did it to advance society. A nexus is something that connects a lot of different things. So the Bauhaus was connecting a lot of different thoughts, a lot of different people, and a lot of different styles and areas of art. Moholy's photos had striking asymmetry. Asymmetry means that something is not symmetrical, meaning not equal. And striking means very obvious, strong. So these things not being equal was striking. It was very obvious and it was very defined. And contrast means a difference between two things or more than two things. So there's a stark, a strong, defined, striking contrast between the color of my shirt and the color of this wall. So stark and striking pretty much have the same meaning. And to espouse something means to support something, to support or adopt. So here, asymmetry and contrasting colors, those were things that Bauhaus espoused. They liked those things and they promoted them.
What else?
Okay, let's take a little look at building the Bauhaus. Lucia Moholy first came to the Bauhaus in 1923 when her husband, the artist Laszlo Moholy-Nagy, was hired to teach at the school. Like many people married to faculty, Moholy sought to make herself useful to the Bauhaus. She leaned on her training in photography to become a documentarian for the Bauhaus, taking pictures of the buildings where they worked, the things they made, and the people who made them. The buildings designed by Bauhaus founder Walter Gropius for its campus in Dessau would become a major theme in Moholy's work. She photographed the school's workshops, the dormitories, and the masters' houses. The photographs shot by Moholy, much like the architecture designed by Gropius, embodied a balance of clarity, simplicity, and asymmetry. Her representations are utilitarian, documenting the world as it is, but they are so beautiful, reveling in clean lines and stark contrasts. Moholy would ultimately take hundreds of photographs, which would go on to have a tremendous impact on the built world. Yet, as she took them, she never could have guessed the impact those photos would have on her own life, or that she would spend years fighting to regain control of them. Okay, so the article goes on to describe what happens during World War II, why she lost control of her photos. So definitely listen to the podcast and read the rest of the article. Let's review some vocab now. It says that she leaned on her training. Instead, I would say she depended on or relied on. Usually we lean on physical things or someone for support. A documentarian is someone who makes documentaries. A workshop is usually a place where you make things. It's a place where you do a lot of work, usually physical stuff with your hands. To embody something means to make up or to compose something. So in her photos embodied balance, clarity, simplicity, and asymmetry. So her photos they were made up of all of those things. That's what it means to embody something. And if something is utilitarian, it is designed for practical purposes, and it is simple. It's defined also by its simplicity. And to revel in something means to celebrate something, to cherish something. So you can revel as in to party, to have a celebration, but here it's more like to show emphasis to something. And they're reveling in clean lines and stark contrasts. So they're showing the importance of these things which embody, comprise the philosophy of Bauhaus. Yeah, so that's it, man. If you are interested in architecture or design or anything related to art, finish reading this article. If you want a review, remember you can listen to the podcast.
I don't know what I was gonna say, so check that out.
And I'm sure you know that these videos are possible thanks to my patrons like Jessica and Nora. So become a patron if you want to help me make more of these videos, more and longer, and to get some extra videos on Patreon.